In this video, I'm going to go over quickly, give you a general overview of how to set up a game of Maximum Apocalypse. The first step is always to look in your mission log, select a scenario and a mission. So there's a bunch of different missions here. They all correspond to a particular apocalypse. So the easiest ones are sort of the zombie, and then you move into nuclear winter before you head into alien invasion. But the first thing you want to do is pick a mission. So for this example, I'm just going to pick a basic zombie mission for Find the Cure. And you'll notice that there's both an objective and a boss setup indicated here. It also tells you which map tiles you're going to use. I've pre-sorted them in this tile here, and it lays out the scavenge decks. So you'll actually use the mission log to create all the different decks sort of ahead of time. So I've skipped that part and I've got that done. So the first thing you're going to want to do is I've made all my scavenge decks. So I have my red, green, and blue. They go here to correspond to the decks that you're going to draw from. And then I kept these cards out because I wanted to let everyone know that during setup, while the mission log sort of gives you a recommended setup, you can certainly make the game much more difficult by adding ambush cards into the supply decks and empty-handed cards as well. That's going to make your actions less efficient, it's going to make resources scarcer, and it's going to make the game more difficult. So, you know, if I wanted to make the game a little harder, I may take a couple of these cards and slip one into each deck. So like I said, this particular apocalypse corresponds to the zombie, so I'm going to take the zombie deck and set that aside. I'm also going to follow the boss setup for this particular mission, which is take the boss card and randomly put it in the bottom 10 cards or so and shuffle that up. So we know that the boss is going to come out, but he's going to come out later in the game. We don't need these. We won't be fighting zombies or aliens in this particular scenario, so we'll set those aside. Then the next step is to build the map. So you're going to want to take these tiles. Again, the tiles are specified in the scenario, so you'll have, if your objective is based on getting to the hospital, like it is for this particular scenario, the hospital is obviously included as one of the tiles in this scenario. So after you shuffle these tiles, you sort of create the randomized map and dungeon that you'll face. The more square that you make the map, the easier it is. But I always like to put some holes in the map and make it a little bit more interesting to navigate. So once your map is built, you're going to take your van and you're going to drive it to one of the exterior spots on the map. So I'm going to put it here on the edge. And then sort of the final steps are that all the players need to pick a survivor class to face this mission. So let's say I pick the surgeon. So I would take her card. And, you know, someone picks the mechanic up here, someone picks the fireman over here, and these three souls are in this particular scenario, so we'll set them to the side. And we're going to take all of the player tokens for the people we've chosen, put them on the van, and then just to show you how my sort of play area as a player would be set up, I would take the surgeon card face up with my deck. I will take a dice which represents my hunger. I will set my hunger to 1. You know, shuffle up your deck obviously if you haven't before, and then I will draw 4 cards to make up my starting hand. So once everyone's sort of set up their play area, the final step when you drive into a new map is your van is very noisy. So everyone draws a monster card and places it in front of their character. So we would place this one in front of the fireman and this one in front of the mechanic. And obviously if there are any particular effects when you draw a monster card, you're going to want to resolve those effects before you start the game. But at this point, we're sort of ready to get. We're ready to go. The next thing we would need to do is sort of assess the situation based on what monsters come out and pick who goes first. Typically, you don't want someone like the surgeon going first because they don't have access to weapons sort of at the start of the game unless I've drawn something into my hand. So you typically want to start with somebody like the fireman or the gunslinger, someone who's built in to fight off monsters right out of the gate. But that's the setup. Obviously over here I have sort of all my hit tokens and bullet tokens and poison tokens if I need them, and I have the monster tokens here. So that's a quick video on how to set up the game. Obviously it doesn't, other than separating the decks, it's pretty easy. So I hope you've enjoyed this and look forward to you playing the game.